Hey everyone, welcome to Geek Rant. It's Greg here on the channel with Toby, and today we're going to be talking about episodes 1 to 3 of the new series Andor. Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. I'm pleased to be talking about this new series today. This is one I have been looking forward to, and I was mostly pleased with what I saw. So that's good. Obviously, this is we've got 3 episodes to talk about today. We're not going to go
Yeah,
through in total detail on all the plots and
no.
everything. Like we said before, we've got great interest in Star Wars. We've watched all
Mm.
the films, all those sorts of things. We're more the sort of original Star Wars fans.
Yeah,
So a lot of the new stuff is we know stuff about, but not as in depth as some.
yeah.
But again, we
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 do
like to
love it
review.
though.
We love it. We like to review it
Mm.
as a show. How does the show stand up, and how do the characters perform, and that
Yeah,
sort of thing. So that's very much the review today. And
yeah.
like I say, it's 3 episodes, so it's
It was interesting,
but
wasn't it?
yeah, but it felt like it was
Yeah,
actually one chapter, didn't
it
it?
did. It
It
really
really
did.
felt like it was one
Yeah,
chapter. I would say overall, I was pleased. I was pleased with what I saw. I think the world they're creating there is really tangible and really
definitely.
interesting.
Yeah,
I think there was lots of really positive points to take out of this.
yeah.
What did you think, Toby? I'm sorry, I don't want to.
Well, I tend to agree
Yeah.
that it didn't feel like 3 episodes, even though I
Mhm.
watched it in 2 halves.
Yeah.
I think the reason is I think with the first episode in particular,
Yeah.
not a huge amount happens.
No.
I
No.
think it was quite Blade Runnery, wasn't it? They were trying to
Yes.
create an ambience, and
Yes.
there seemed to be quite a bit of focus on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we would see
Absolutely.
him, Cassian, wandering through streets, and we'd see details and bits and pieces.
Yeah.
And there was a
Yeah.
lot of that walking down long corridors
Yes.
and
Yes.
lots of things we didn't really need. And I felt like the
Yeah.
first 2 episodes could almost have been,
One.
yeah, combined
Yeah.
into one
I,
episode, unfortunately.
yeah. I think I agree with you on that one.
Yeah,
I liked. I think for me, sometimes it can be it's such a fine judgment, isn't it, on
yeah,
how they can create backstory and how they can create a sort of setup for something. And I think it
yeah,
was just a little bit long-winded at times. Exactly
yeah.
what you said. Sometimes they could cut things back. I wonder if there was any sort of thought in their mind. We've made all these sets. I mean, they literally made a village, I think, for
Yeah.
this
In
for this whole
Buckinghamshire,
set.
apparently.
Yeah,
Buckingham.
yeah, I know. And so I can part of me is in my mind thinking, oh, we spent so much time doing this and making this that we've got to show it. We've got to show the
Yeah,
detail. We've got to show, and it's full of so many different little bits and pieces,
it
isn't
really
it?
is. Mm.
Lots of great characters, lots of really good little people in different uniforms, different outfits. I like the monsters that were in it.
Yeah,
There
yeah.
was one big monster that came up to sort of threaten him with that the guy who was after some money,
Yeah, they look
came up
great, don't
behind.
they?
They look
It is
fantastic,
lovely. It's that word you said earlier, tangible. It's
Yeah,
there. It's visceral. It's tactile. You can see it.
exactly.
They've made props. We love props.
Yeah,
They've made
props.
costumes. We love costumes.
Yeah,
All that stuff.
yeah,
I'm happy to suspend my disbelief if something
yeah.
doesn't quite move properly, if it looks fantastic. And
Yes,
we saw a lot of that. But I think we also
absolutely.
saw a lot of trying to establish new characters in an
Yes.
old world.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
they spent some time, didn't they, introducing us to the police force that
Yes.
is employed by the Empire, and
Yeah,
we
yeah.
had
The
um,
Preox Mulana, they're called. Yeah,
yeah,
Mulana. Yeah.
yeah, that's a great name,
Yes.
isn't it?
It
And
is, yeah.
Cyril Khan, as
Yes.
he's the lieutenant or the
Yes, that's right. The deputy
number,
inspector.
yeah,
Yeah.
deputy inspector, and
Mm.
we see a lot of him,
Yes.
and I feel that
Yes.
his story is going to be going further.
Yeah.
But
For
they
me
spend a
that
lot of
for me
time with
that
that process.
encouraged, yes, I know, and that encouraged me, that they were trying. I mean, when we reviewed Obi-Wan Kenobi, some of our
Yeah,
criticism was there was no real understanding of the characters, who they
absolutely.
were, what they're about, what their motivations were.
Mm,
This has maybe gone slightly too much on that, but
probably.
at least we
Yeah.
get the real. I can get a real sense of this character. He's a real job's worth. He really
Mm,
wants to do what he thinks is right in this role. You know,
yeah.
he sees it his duty. You know, when he met the sergeant guy, Mosk, you know, and they're both
Mm,
of a similar ilk in their attitude.
mm.
Um, and yet it also showed other sides of him as well, didn't it?
It
He was
did it.
quite a nervous character
Yeah.
in places, you know,
Insecure.
insecure, and
I,
it was, you know, it was quite nice to see a more rounded
I
character that they were
agree. I
trying to
agree.
develop. You know,
I agree. It was
I give them
interesting.
credit for trying. You know, when in the past it doesn't really seem to matter. You
No,
know,
it's
let's just
true.
thrust someone in there.
And I don't think I'd have too much of a problem with it. Why?
Yeah,
Sometimes we saw scenes
yeah,
from Cyril's perspective, and I
hmm,
thought, like at the end, I know I'm going to something right at the end here where they escape
yeah,
the
yeah,
combat. We
mm,
see him standing in the town, so looking around. We could have been potentially more with Cassian and
yeah,
Luthen, looking at what they were doing, but there was cryptic little moments when we saw what they were doing, and then it was largely focused on the police force looking
yeah,
like idiots, which is
yeah,
fine.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so I thought that sometimes the emphasis was taken away from Cassian as
Yes,
the
yeah.
hero.
I can see what you're saying.
He was often asking people, what should I do? What should I do?
Yeah.
Or asking advice, or always on the run and
Well, yeah,
unsure.
he seemed like he owed everybody money, didn't he?
Yeah, I got a little bit
And
sick
he
of
was
that,
always
to be honest.
trying to pull a few, you know, too many strings. But
Yeah,
I can see why they've done that. You know, they're trying to create a reason for he's going to join up, you know, to fight in the resistance, you know.
yeah,
And part of me is thinking they're doing this, they're lining this up. You know, he's kind of burning a few bridges. He's got people after him for money. You know, he's let his friends
yeah,
down a bit. You know, but again, I liked the characters that were around him. You know, I thought
yeah.
they were all
Me too.
good characters. You know,
Bix was great. I thought she was
Bix was
good.
good. Yeah, she
Yeah,
was really good. Even that annoying guy she was with played it well. You know,
Tim, was it
Tim,
Tim or
yeah,
yeah?
he was, you know, he played that role well. But I quite
Yeah,
liked the guy that was the worker, the Brasso guy, you know, who's doing all the stripping of the plane. He was quite a handy guy, you know,
yeah.
and a good
I
friend.
looked at these characters and they were good, but then I
Yeah.
also look at Cassian and I think he's not charismatic. You know
This was your
why?
one problem, wasn't it, with
Why
this series?
is
Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah.
know, I'm trying to get over it.
You're trying to go over it.
Why are they so loyal to him when
Yes.
obviously the only time we would talk to him he's saying, I'll pay you back, see you later. And I kind of
Yeah.
felt like that. I struggled to
Yeah.
connect the dots with that one. And yeah, I'm struggling to get over that side of the character of the
Yeah.
actor
Yeah.
and how he plays. And I did struggle to hear what he was saying at times. And
Yes.
because he's got quite a thick accent. I love accents, don't get me
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
I did struggle to catch some of it. And then sometimes it was quite dark. Sometimes the effects were loud and I didn't quite
I
hear.
I agree with you. I think
Yeah.
he is not necessarily your first thought of as a leading man.
No.
And if they could play this a bit more, that there were several leading characters. I mean, when Stellan Skarsgård came into it,
Yeah,
suddenly it changed, and
it
you
did.
know that third episode was so much better because he had been brought into it, and he's
Absolutely.
a very experienced actor, always portrays things really well. I mean, he played this character really good, didn't he? We got a real
Yeah.
sense of he was a, you know, in the underground doing things, you know, really sort of, but he was in control and he had a real controlling sort of presence. But
Yeah.
I think for me, it seems like he's going to maybe become his mentor, you know, and take him under his
Yeah.
wing and develop him, you
Yeah.
know.
He's
There's a few
recruiting him,
bits.
isn't he? He's
Yeah, he's
recruiting him.
recruiting him and
Yeah.
he's gonna develop his skills and
He's a
make him
great
into,
actor.
yeah. And so
And
I
we've
think
also got Genevieve O'Reilly as Mon Mothma coming in.
yes, yes.
She's going to be hopefully the third main character.
Yes, that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping
Yeah.
there's going to be several main characters, not just centered around him, like
No,
it
well,
is
I
in
hope not.
Obi-Wan. You
Yeah.
know, I think you have these main characters together and they bring it together. I
Yeah.
think that's going to be really good. I thought it was interesting how they did the flashback bits with
Yeah,
him as a child,
yeah,
and,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I liked it that they didn't give, they were speaking a language that you couldn't understand, but you could just understand what they were doing, and
yeah,
coming across that ship,
yeah,
finding, and how it all led up to him being rescued, by Marva Andor. That's where he gets his Andor from, isn't it? It's
yeah.
his like his adopted
It-
mum.
yeah, exactly.
Um,
She's a great actress as well.
she was good.
Yeah,
That
she's
was
very
really
good.
good.
Yeah, yeah,
And I even like the addition of. I'm always a bit wary of new droids. New droids for me sometimes they're a bit.
yeah.
I didn't like that little remote droid
No,
in
me
in
either.
in Obi-Wan particularly, but I quite
No, me
liked
either.
this droid. He was a different style.
He made me
B2
think of the droid out
EMO.
of the black hole. He had a kind of,
Yes,
he had a
yes,
kind of
that's
like,
what it was. The way his head
yeah,
just kept coming up and doing that
yeah,
sort of,
and the red
concertina.
and the kind of the way the
Yeah,
metal was damaged a bit around the
yeah,
edges,
yeah,
and
yeah. And it
I
was
thought
nice
he
to
was
see the
good.
flashback of him when he was a fully more operational robot as well,
Yeah,
which was quite a nice touch.
yeah, and the
I
references to battery power with him was quite cool as
yes,
well. I
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, one of the main problems I had with it,
Yeah,
I sat there, I was enjoying the. Well, there's two main problems I had with it. The first one was I wasn't surprised by anything that happened in it, and it was a
right.
real shame. It was
Okay,
all pretty predictable, to be honest.
right.
There were one or two moments where the spaceship got tagged by that piece of
Yeah,
trash. That was great, but
yeah.
I
Well,
I knew
that
that.
was his mate, wasn't it? That was Brasso who
Yeah,
did that. Yeah,
exactly. I
he
mean, I
must have done that.
knew that he was going to escape, and I knew that the woman was going to save young Cassian.
Right.
I knew that the guy, these policemen, was going to fail. I wasn't surprised by a lot in it, which was a shame.
It's interesting. It's interesting.
I Because when I'm watching, say,
Yeah,
House of Dragons, I'm shocked constantly by what's happening, and I'm gripped.
yeah,
With this, I
yeah,
was
yeah,
very casually enjoying it. Don't get me wrong, I like the world. I was there,
yeah,
and then Joe, my wife, she said something interesting. She
yeah.
said, "I don't feel it's very Star Warsy,"
Yes.
and that
And this
really
was.
that threw me. That
Do you
that
know
completely
what?
threw me, and I
I
was
I
like,
I
"You're
think
right."
that was something I noticed as well.
Yeah,
Um, it was completely different in its style to the
yeah,
Obi-Wan series, completely different, and you're right. I thought it felt a bit more like a Game of Thrones type approach, in that
they
but
tried.
set
They
it
were
in Star
trying
Wars.
to it.
They were
They were,
trying to develop it
yeah,
more as a drama series, weren't they, than
yeah.
necessarily. But yeah, I thought that as well. It's slightly not Star Warsy, but it is. And
If I said to you,
yeah,
this is a series set in the world of Blade Runner,
yeah, yeah, you could imagine it a bit.
you could almost
Yeah,
imagine that.
yeah.
Or do you remember that terrible TV show called Space Precinct?
Oh God, that was bad.
That was
Don't compare it
terrible.
to that. That
That
was
was terrible. But
terrible.
you know, there were moments when the police
That
were
was a
in their
Jerry
little
Anderson
room.
thing, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
it
That was a
was. Yeah,
Jerry
they were
Anderson
in there.
thing where they had
The
the
police
funny.
force. They had the
Yeah, yeah,
police, and there
yeah.
were moments in that
Aliens.
that made me think of. I'd like, oh my god, this is kind of like a clunky police force
Yeah.
sitting around, feeling a bit inept, and yeah, I
That's
was kind of
interesting.
drawing comparisons to stuff like that in my mind,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah, I was like, oh, you're right. We need that sharp evil that is the Imperial force, don't we, appearing and kind of giving us that sharper edge against the rougher rebel type
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
It's all
yeah.
rough at the moment, isn't it?
It is. It is
Mm,
exactly. And I suppose it's a period. It's 5 years before, Rogue One has sort of occurred.
yeah.
There is the Empire, isn't there? But it's not quite got the death grip quite yet, has it?
No.
It's you
Exerting
know,
its forces.
it
It's kind of
is,
pushing out
and
into
it
planets and taking over.
exactly, and it has these kind of like this Priox Milano
Yeah.
corporation
They're
looking after
contracts, security
security.
agents.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're security agencies, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
They're looking after this planet for them rather than there being a load of stormtroopers.
Mm,
I think if we'd seen more stormtroopers and a bit more of that sort of thing, it might have made us feel a bit more
yeah.
this is Star Warsy, whereas this was a different approach, and
Yeah.
but I quite liked that, because
I
I
enjoyed it. I
yeah,
did
I
enjoy it.
quite like that in that
Yeah.
respect. I think ultimately, if the first two episodes had been maybe together, and a little bit more refined, not quite so drawn out, I think we'd be sitting there going, flipping heck, that was amazing. Do you know what I mean? But
Yeah, I
things
think
still
they're
happened.
yeah.
He's still, at the beginning he's trying to find his sister, isn't he? Because he'd obviously
Mm.
left her, unwittingly he'd left her on that planet, hadn't he? Canary. And so we saw him on a different planet. He had a bit of a misadventure there with
It
those
was
guys.
weird. He was kind of encouraging these guys to almost be aggravated by him.
Yeah,
He was
yeah,
at the bar, he's staring at them, and then the guys were like,
he was.
why are you doing that when you want to be quiet and under
I
the,
think they were. I think the thing was, though, and they tried to. I think they tried to explain it a bit later on. There's these security guys that are using their abuse of their power, aren't they? They wanted to get some money out of him or something out of him, and
yeah.
so I think it was a bit of both.
They
I
weren't
think they
meant
were
to be
both.
in that bar, were they? In
No,
that
they weren't meant to be in
brothel.
there,
Yeah.
and it's like you say, it was showing a sort of side of a slightly lazy police force that are a little bit corrupt and misusing their power and that sort of thing. But I mean that bit there was a little bit of action. Maybe they could have had a better section for that. That he got in trouble, didn't he? Basically, he ended up killing these two guys. He got in trouble, and that's kind of led to him now trying to get his escape route, isn't it? So I can see
I
why they
think
did.
it's interesting that they should open on a scene
Yeah,
that is probably the most, I keep saying this, Blade Runner-ish scene
it was.
in the
It was.
show. A
Yeah,
dark,
raining.
rainy kind
Those
of,
sort of lights sticking out.
yeah,
Yeah, sort
things
of like him
hovering
trudging
around.
along. Yeah,
And I think
yeah,
that was a strange decision to make, because Star Wars has always been noted for its opening sequences.
yes, yeah,
The
yeah,
classic one being the ship coming
yeah. Oh,
coming across
yeah,
the
yeah,
planet.
yeah.
And this, and to set the mood, set the scene, you're immediately in the Star Wars world,
That's
and
the
we were immediately in a different world with
yeah.
this one. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying. Yes,
Yeah,
it did. But then I think you can't have it all the same all the time. There's got to be
no,
some development and change, and that did set immediately. We are dealing with a different program here, and we are dealing with a
yeah,
different world.
it did.
So I can see why they tried to do that.
Yeah,
Um, it's not like we're saying. It's not so much imperial, is it? It's these outer, you know,
yeah,
planets that are
like
dealing
the
with their
Outer
own
Rim almost.
security and yeah, a
Yeah,
little bit, yeah.
yeah,
I was just bloody pleased it wasn't on Tatooine again.
yeah.
Normally we
The
got a
actual
desert planet,
town, yeah, the actual town they spent a lot of
yeah,
time in was a kind of
yeah,
cross between Tatooine, although we didn't see deserts. It
yeah,
was kind of quite run
yeah.
down
It
sandstone
was,
built structure, wasn't it? And
yeah, yeah,
it looked like they kept using the same alleyway for different shots.
yeah,
But
yeah. That's true.
I did enjoy, I enjoy that these alien worlds.
Yes,
It's
yeah,
like a
yeah,
dream,
definitely.
isn't it?
But
We
they
take
set it up
ourselves there.
nicely. They gave it a good feel. It had a sort of sense to it. Them showing that bit with the guy hitting the metal. You can say, well, that's totally unnecessary, but it's sort of indicating, that's how they keep their time. That's how they know when, shift
Yeah,
start or whatever. I think
yeah,
that's nice that they're doing these sort of
yeah. They
thinking
did a bit of
about it. They're trying to think about it and they're trying
yeah.
to add a bit of detail in.
They did some concept
Um,
work on it, didn't they? They had to
yeah,
flesh it out, and I mean,
yeah,
we have to remember whenever they do any Star Wars um, show,
yeah.
all the content becomes part of the canon, and they have to make sure it's all
That's true.
carefully ironed
That's
out
true.
and it fits into the systems.
Yeah,
And the
yeah,
people can look it up. Why do they hammer this metal to, it will all go
yeah.
into some codex somewhere. So it has to have
Yes.
a reason, and that's part of the reason why we so love these things, isn't it? Because they're so well
Yeah.
thought out. There's
Yeah,
a kind of there's a
exactly.
richness to it, and
Mm,
I thought
mm.
it was fascinating. It's a metal world, a scrap world, isn't it? Where
Exactly.
metal and
Yes.
ships are recycled,
Yeah.
and that's their craft. And the
Yeah.
hammer is a symbol, like the mason's hammer is a
That's
symbol
true. Of
of
of doing that. Yeah. Of the
trade and
process.
skill,
Yeah.
and so
Mm.
that was interesting. I like the guy doing the hitting.
Yeah.
He was doing all
Yeah.
sorts of poses, wasn't he? And
Yeah. It was.
I thought that was I thought that was good. I like that sort of thing. It
Yeah.
takes you to a foreign place, isn't it?
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
And I thought the actors all did a good job. There was, you know, Cassian he was he
Six
was
out
all
of
right.
10.
He was all right. Yeah.
Yeah,
But you had some good people around him. And I think
he did.
they were good supporting roles and good and did a good job of bringing it together. Yeah.
Mm.
So
I would have
yeah.
liked a bit more about how Brasso and Bix slotted into his world. I
Yes.
came out
Yeah.
of it not knowing where they came from, or why they were friends with him.
Yeah.
He kind of was suddenly asking favors from them all the time. And I was like, oh, it'd be nice to know a little bit just why they're so compelled to follow him. I think that was one of the
Yes.
few things I felt it
Yeah.
lacked.
Yeah,
I
no, that's
felt that if
true.
they'd had that in there, I would have been like gunning for Cassian a bit more because I could
Yeah.
see why Bix and
Yeah, you
Brasso
kind of
were
wondered whether
backing.
Bix liked him, but then she liked Tim, didn't she? She liked the
Yeah,
other
that was
guy.
weird.
So that was kind of
Is he like a brother to her? There
hmm.
was no kind of explanation for that, and I felt
But
that that was
maybe it was
lacking.
because he's always she's like a middle man, isn't she, for these people who doing the trading of these expensive bits of kit.
Yeah,
He's probably help useful for some income, to help with paying things. So
yeah.
maybe it's as simple as, but you're right, there could have been a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think then
How
we
we
would
deal with that.
understand Tim's jealousy a bit more
Yes.
because he was just there really to symbolize jealousy, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
didn't really have much to do.
He betrayed him as well, didn't he?
Yeah,
So sort
yeah,
of give him the
betrayal and
heads up.
jealousy, the kind of
Yeah.
classic.
Yeah.
But it was a bit of a shame. I would have liked to have seen just a bit more interaction between those guys rather than all this
Yeah.
sort of walking down dark corridors all the time. But I
I
kind
know
of
what you mean.
that's the way they've done it, and I did it. I enjoyed watching it, and
Yeah.
we obviously watch the next ones.
Oh
But
yeah. Well, I thought it on the third episode, it definitely picked up,
yeah,
and it felt like there was moving at a better pace, some good action in it, some more realistic sort of feeling kind of action, which is nice.
yeah,
We some of the action we saw in Obi-Wan was terrible, wasn't it?
oh,
The bit where the
yeah,
woman was pulling the stormtroopers by the masks and that sort
yeah,
of thing was pretty
spamming
rubbish.
them.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. This was proper, you got shot, didn't you?
Yeah,
And you got killed and but more realistic. So I was quite pleased with
yeah,
the way they did all that, the confrontation between Cassian Andor and
rail.
Luthen Rail.
Mm.
So I thought that was good, how they sort of were talking to each other and trying to negotiate, and I like
And
that.
all the
Then
way those the big chunks of
yeah,
metal
yeah, all
engine
falling
come
down. Yeah, that
crashing
was
down, and they drew
yeah,
that out nicely. You didn't quite
they
know
did.
what bits were going to fall,
No,
and there
no.
was that element of the unknown about that whole encounter. That was the bit when I thought, oh, I don't know whether
Yeah,
to go with him, whether he's going to help him.
yeah, yeah,
That I felt like there was definite friction.
yes,
And so it was great to end it on. And that's the thing that I think of now when I think of that episode. I think of that scene
absolutely.
where the things are dropping
Yeah,
down and
yeah,
Luthen is spotted somewhere to run to, and they slide through that gap, and there's the
yeah.
explosion. He blows up the entrance, and it cuts the cascade effect. It's good. I like it when they do that. It
Yeah.
was a different sort of action sequence as well. I haven't seen anything like that before, so that was
In some
cleverly thought
respects,
up.
yeah, in some respects, I was quite happy that they it sort of released the three episodes at the same time to watch them
Mm,
together. Because I think if we'd had the first two to watch together, we'd be sitting here saying, "Oh, this could be going the wrong way," But
yeah,
then that episode has really picked it up, and
yeah,
I think it also coincides with the Luthen character coming in and doing his
yeah,
bit, So Stellan Skarsgård. So I think that obviously helped raise things a bit, but
definitely.
I'm looking positive now. It's going on the right way.
Yeah, me
It's
too.
slightly slow
Well,
start, but now it's starting a motor.
yeah.
So let's hope the next one's going to be really good.
Yeah, and we haven't had Mon Mothma, as I mentioned before. She hasn't been in it yet, and I think
Well, this is a
everybody's
perfect
looking
time
forward
to
to
cut to
seeing
something
her.
else now, isn't it?
Yeah,
That
it
was
is.
like
I think they
chapter
will.
one.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah,
It will be cut to something else now, and I think we'll see her.
completely.
And I think there's this other actress, isn't there, who's coming in as an imperial officer. I can't
Yeah,
remember what the cat's
I
name
can't
is, but
remember. Yeah,
um, I think she's going to come in and she's going to suddenly be a real, force to be reckoned with. And so we could have some really
mm.
interesting sort of stuff to come.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point because
Mm.
I think having watched the trailers,
Yeah,
and this is perhaps one thing that's against watching trailers, you
yeah,
see the future characters,
you
and
do.
we've sat down and expected to see all those characters in the first
Yeah,
episode.
yeah,
You
yeah.
do it subconsciously. You kind of
You do,
you
don't
see these
you?
trailers, you think, oh,
Absolutely.
we're gonna have Mothra 3 episodes
Yeah,
in, she hasn't appeared.
yeah,
You know, and I think that
yeah.
so trailers can be a bit deceptive in that way, and sometimes the way they
Yes.
edit them as well can be deceptive. But
No,
I think
absolutely.
I think at least it allows us to know that we've got that to come. But I
Mm.
it was it's held together, and I think thankfully, as you say, Stellan Skarsgård, he's brilliant character. He's a brilliant actor. So it's like a safe pair of hands, isn't it?
Yes, exactly, exactly. He's going to
Mm.
help bring it round. If he and Cassian are now together, they can play off each other a bit better. That quite worked quite well. I thought they played off each other pretty well, and I think they can build on that. Now he's going to have to go and become part of the rebel, sort of, and create that. That's encouraging, really
Mm.
encouraging. All right. Well, thanks very much for watching with us today. We've enjoyed watching those episodes, and looking forward to episode 4, which we'll obviously review on this channel. Obviously, we'd love people to subscribe to the channel, and also like and comment.
Yeah, we love
How did you
comments.
feel it went? This is the beginning of a new series, a new thing that's going to have a few. It's got a few series already attached to it. So
Yeah.
let us know what you think, and we'll see you again soon.